So coming off the ending of chapter 307, we start this one off with Finral and Langer squaring off with Xenon, who's been turned into a full-on devil due to the deal he made with Beelzebub. And this is a matchup that you'd usually think would be very one-sided in favor of Xenon, considering how easily he was overpowering Langris before he even transformed. But surprisingly enough, the two of them working together actually put up a pretty good fight. Because Langris' mana zone makes it so anyone within it can still use magic, Finral is able to use his spatial magic to easily dodge Xenon's attacks, while closing the distance between them. And Finral being faster with his teleporting than even a devil transformed Xenon can keep up with is already a major feat. But even when Xenon finally figures out the timing and pattern to Finral's movements and thinks he's predicted where they'll appear so that he can land a killing blow on the two of them, Finral boosts his speed even more using the mana method that he learned in the Heart Kingdom. And this is another instance of Tabata relying on our knowledge from the anime to explain how something from the manga works. Because while we knew that Finral was one of the few chosen to train in the Heart Kingdom before the time skip, he's the only character from that roster that we've never got to see what he's learned from that training, or even what his training was like. However, if you watched the anime, then you would have got to see a little bit of the training that he underwent with the Wind Spirit Guardian Smirk. Unfortunately though, his training was pretty much devoted solely to increasing Finral's speed. Now if you guys have been watching me for a while now, you would know that I've been advocating for a long time for Finral to get at least one attack spell. And I had hoped that we would get to see that attack spell, or at the very least Finral gaining his own mana zone from this training, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, at least not yet. But still, the fact that with mana method, Finral is faster than Xenon after he's been turned into a high ranked devil is still one amazing feat for the character. And that speed allowed him and Langris to get behind Xenon and land a pretty big hit on him. And honestly, given what happened with Magna, I wouldn't have been surprised if Tabata had these two be the ones to beat Xenon right here. But the big difference between that situation and this one is that Dante wasn't anyone's personal opponent, while Xenon is Yuno's for multiple reasons. He played a major part in killing Yuno's parents, killed off half his squad, kidnapped his captain, almost killed him, and basically is the dark mirror version of Yuno. So for all those reasons, Yuno really is the only one who's destined to defeat Xenon. Which means that as Yuno finally wakes up from being knocked out last chapter, he sees that Langris and Finral are both on the verge of death, which I do want to give these two credit, because if they had been fighting the Xenon from before the ending of chapter 306, they would have won. It's only because Xenon now has a devil's heart that can only be killed under certain methods that he survived that attack. And I definitely feel like this should count as a major feat for the both of them. But anyway, this right here at the end of the chapter is when things really get crazy. Because just as Yuno decides that even if the situation is hopeless, he's still going to get up and try to fight, that a spirit randomly showed up in front of him, and I can only imagine that this is the spirit of the elf child that Yuno shares a body with, even though I could have swore during the end of the elf resurrection arc, when all the elves were being sent off to heaven, that this spirit went with them. Anyway, this is when that spirit shows up and tells Yuno, hey listen, I'm right there with you, and you know what? This entire time, you've been using my power to fight with, but you also have your own power that you're born with. And just as he finished saying that, a Spade Kingdom Grimoire shows up right in front of Yuno out of nowhere. And dude, the sheer amount of power emitted from this Grimoire when Yuno accepts it is enough to split the clouds in the sky above the Spade Kingdom castle. And everyone outside, including Patry, sees this. And yeah, this was a mind-blowing reveal for the ending of this chapter. Now, this is something that a lot of fans have actually theorized for a long time now, since the beginning of the Spade Kingdom arc, that once Yuno got here, he would end up getting his own Grimoire from the Spade Kingdom. Personally, I never bought into that theory just because I always believed that each Grimoire was attached to one person. But now that we're finding out, or at least we're getting implied in this chapter, that the Grimoires are attached to a person's soul, not the person themselves, this does make more sense now as to why Yuno could have two Grimoires. Even though this does make me question how he was able to use his Foley Grimoire going forward, after I could have swore at the end of the last big arc, the elf child inside of him went to heaven along with the souls of the other elves. I could be wrong about that though, it's been a while since I read that arc, so maybe I'm misremembering. Anyway, now that Yuno has two Grimoires, it does bring up the major question, or at least two major questions. One, why didn't the Grimoire show up to him as soon as he stepped foot in the Spade Kingdom? Why did it wait so long to get to him? And two, does this mean that Yuno will now have two magical elements? Because I mean, up until this point, we've been told that the only way to have two different magical elements is to be a hybrid like Charmy, or to be given them artificially like Mars. But we've never been in a situation like this where one person has two separate grimoires, so really anything's up in the air at this point. But anyway guys, that's pretty much it for this chapter. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in chapter 309 with Yuno using his brand new grimoire to fight off against Zenon. Although, I think that even with his brand new power boost, he's still not going to be able to defeat Zenon by himself. And if anyone does show up to help him out, I'm really hoping that ends up being Dorothy, just because we haven't seen her in such a long time, and I was really looking forward to when we were introduced to her being a part of this arc, to seeing her actually use her powers to fight against someone that's a high-ranking devil. And this will be the perfect time for Tabata to bring her back. But anyway guys, thank you for watching the video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on the chapter, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.